All right, so today we're talking about job interviews. Well, more specifically, how to really own those conversations, you know, really leave a killer impression. And it's not always about what's on your resume, right? It's about how you say it.
It's about that human connection. You can be amazing on paper, but if you can't convey that in person, well, it's tough.
For sure. So that's what we're diving into today, this idea of using the right phrases to really project confidence and understanding.
Exactly. And to help us unpack this, we're diving into this YouTube video I found. It's called Career Vids, something like that. And the host, they claim to have like 30 years of hiring experience.
Whoa, okay, so they've seen it all.
Right. 30 years in the trenches, that's got to give you some insights. The title of the video is something like Top 10 Phrases to Make You Sound More Confident. It's kind of a classic clickbaity title, but
Yeah, but hey, sometimes the best advice comes in the most unexpected packages, right? Plus, anyone who's spent that long in the hiring world probably has some good stories.
I'm sure. So we'll see if it holds up to the deep dive treatment. Okay, so the video starts off, like most YouTube videos do, with a little plug to like and subscribe. Fair enough.
Got to build that audience, right? All right, so let's get to the good stuff. What's the first power phrase they hit us with?
So, phrase number one is all about setting the tone right off the bat. The phrase is, I am excited about the opportunity to contribute to your company's goals. Seems simple enough.
It does, but I can see how it subtly shifts the focus. It's not just about what you want from the job, it's about what you can bring to them.
Exactly. Most people walk into an interview thinking, what's in it for me? But this phrase flips the script. It shows you're thinking about their needs, their success.
It's like saying, I'm not just here to collect a paycheck, I'm here to make a real impact. But isn't there a risk of that sounding a little, I don't know, rehearsed? Like you're just saying what you think they want to hear.
There's always that risk, which is why the way you deliver it is crucial. If you're genuinely excited about the company and the role, that will shine through. And more importantly, you need to back it up with substance.
Show, don't just tell. Right.
Exactly. Which brings us to their second power phrase. I have studied the job description, and my qualifications, skills, and knowledge are a perfect match. Now, this one requires a delicate touch.
I was just thinking that. Because while confidence is great, claiming to be a perfect match could easily come across as, well, a little arrogant, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's a fine line between confidence and, overconfidence. You want to own your skills and experience, but also acknowledge that every company, every role has its nuances.
So how do you walk that line? If you can't just come right out and say, I'm perfect for this, what's the play?
Instead of a blanket statement, get specific. For example, you could say something like, I noticed in the job description you're looking for someone with strong project management skills. In my previous role, I actually implemented a new project management system that streamlined workflows and increased productivity by 15%. You see how that's different?
Okay, so it's about connecting the dots for them. You're not just saying, I'm good at this. You're painting a picture of how your skills have translated into tangible results in the past, and hopefully for them in the future.
Exactly. And that's far more compelling than any generic statement.
It's like that old saying, past performance is not indicative of future results, but it sure is a heck of a lot more convincing than a promise.
Now you're getting it. It's about building trust and credibility through concrete examples. Speaking of which, the next few phrases this video highlights kind of all revolve around a theme that's highly sought after in today's job market adaptability.
Ah, yes. Because in today's world, gone are the days where you could learn one skill and ride that wave for your entire career, right? Companies need people who are agile, quick learners, can pivot when needed.
Exactly, which is probably why phrases like, I'm a highly adaptable and quick learner, and I'm always eager to take on new challenges, have become almost cliche in interviews. Like, everyone claims to be adaptable.
Right, so how do you actually demonstrate that in a way that makes you stand out? Because anyone can say those words, but
That's where, again, it's not just what you say, but how you say it. And having a compelling story or example ready to go, think back to your own experiences. Was there a time when you were thrown a curveball, had to learn something new quickly, and you really rose to the occasion?
so instead of just saying I'm adaptable, you could say, in my previous role, we were transitioning to this new software system, and I took the initiative to learn the ins and outs ahead of time. I even ended up training some of my colleagues.
Now you're talking. That paints a much more vivid picture of your adaptability in action. You're not just saying the words, you embody that quality.
It's like the difference between saying you're a good cook versus actually, whipping up a gourmet meal to prove it.
Now that's an analogy I can get behind.
And I bet that's even more important when we're talking about those like teamwork phrases that get thrown around in interviews. Everyone wants to hear that you're a team player.
Oh, for sure. But it's like, what does that even mean? It's so vague. So when this YouTube video throws out a phrase like, I'm a strong collaborator who always puts the needs of my team first, I'm like, okay, that sounds good on paper, but
Right. How does that translate into an actual story?
exactly. So I think with these teamwork phrases, it's all about, again, authenticity
Hmm.
and having a concrete example to back it up. So think back on your own experiences. Was there a time you had to like put aside your own preferences or maybe even your own workload to help a colleague meet a deadline? Or maybe a time you facilitated some kind of difficult conversation that helped get a team back on track? Like those are the stories that bring these phrases to life.
It's the difference between saying you're a good friend and actually, showing up with a casserole when someone's going through a tough time.
I love that analogy. Okay, moving on. This video also tackles like one of the most, potentially awkward parts of an interview, the whole salary expectation conversation.
Ooh, yeah. That's always a bit of a dance, isn't it? What do they suggest?
So they actually give a pretty specific example of what to say, which I thought was interesting. They say something like, I've researched the salary range for this role in industry, and based on sites like Glassdoor, it seems to fall between $60,000 to $75,000. Considering my experience, I'm targeting a salary of $70,000.
I like how that incorporates data. It shows you've done your homework. You're not just throwing out a random number.
Exactly. It shows you understand your market value
Yeah.
and you're approaching it in a very, informed and professional way.
It's about finding that sweet spot where everyone feels good about the agreement. Speaking of which, this next phrase they suggest using, it also shows you've done your research, but it's more about showing genuine interest in them.
Oh, tell me more about this one.
So they recommend, like, towards the end of the interview, asking, is there any additional information I can read to learn more about your company?
Ooh, I like that. Keeps that door open for further conversation.
Right, and it shows you're not just there to check a box, you're actually invested in the opportunity.
Because let's be real, most people, by the end of an interview, they're kind of mentally checked out. They're just ready for it to be over.
Exactly. So to still be asking questions, wanting to learn more, it shows initiative. But I think the key takeaway here, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, is that it's not just about memorizing these phrases word for word.
Oh, absolutely not. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. It's about understanding the why behind them, internalizing those principles, and then tailoring them to your own, experiences, your own personality.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
otherwise you're just going to come across as inauthentic. And no one wants that.
It's like we're giving people the ingredients, right, and a few recipe ideas, but ultimately they got to get in the kitchen and create something that reflects their own, their own taste and style.
Yeah, I love that. It's about taking these underlying principles, like you said, clarity, confidence, authenticity,
Yeah.
and then you're right, applying them to your own unique situation.
Because at the end of the day, you want to walk out of that interview feeling like you showed them the best version of you. Not some, like, robotic version, just reciting the lines.
Exactly. You want to feel confident, like you conveyed your value, your enthusiasm. Like, this is me. This is what I bring to the table.
So to bring it all home for our listeners, like, what are some key takeaways, things they can put into action today as they prep for that next interview?
Okay, well, first and foremost, preparation is key. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
Like, don't just skim the company's About Us page 5 minutes before your interview.
Right.
Really dive deep.
Because nothing says I'm invested like showing you've done your homework.
Right. And I'd even take it a step further. Look up the person who's interviewing you on LinkedIn. How's their background, their career trajectory? You might find some common ground, helps you build a connection.
Love that. Okay, and then once you've got that knowledge base, it's all about crafting those like compelling answers to those classic interview questions.
And this is where I always go back to the STAR method. It's a classic for a reason, right? It
Okay.
works. And I think it ties into what we were saying earlier about showing, not just telling.
Right. Give me an example.
So like instead of just saying, I'm a great problem solver, which again, anyone can say, describe a specific problem you encountered, the action you took to solve it, and the positive outcome you achieved.
So it's about bringing your experience to life, making it relevant to their needs.
Yes.
Right.
And you know what? I think you can even weave in some of those power phrases we discussed earlier into your STAR responses.
Oh, I like where you're going with this. So, like, for example, when you're talking about a team project, you could say, I was really excited about the opportunity to contribute to the team's goal of, launching this product by the deadline. So I took the initiative to.
See, Now you're connecting the dots.
Yeah.
You're demonstrating your understanding of the company's goals, your enthusiasm for contributing, your proactive approach.
It's like those power phrases are the spice rack, and then the star method is the recipe that brings all the flavors together.
I knew that cooking analogy would come back around. But seriously, I think the biggest takeaway here is that preparation and authenticity, they go hand in hand. The more prepared you are, the more confident and authentic you'll feel, and that's going to show.
And at the end of the day, that's what leaves a lasting impression, right? Way more than any perfectly memorized phrase. So on that note, maybe a final thought for our listeners to chew on as they, gear up for those interviews. If you were the hiring manager, what's that one quality, that one thing that would make you go, yes, this is the person for the job, even before you look at their resume?
Ooh, that's a good one. Something that isn't always easy to convey on a
Yeah.
resume or in a, practice response.
Yeah.
For me, it would be a genuine passion for their work. You can tell when someone's just there for a paycheck versus when they're truly lit up by what they do.
Yes, beautifully said. Because at the end of the day, you can learn skills, you can gain experience, but that fire in your belly, that's something special. And on that note, go out there and crush those interviews. We believe in you.